Hi, this is a miniature model Paul with an update on my SU152, which I've now completed. So this is the final reveal, and I'm really pleased with the way it's come out. It's the first time I've really gone into what I would regard as a quite heavy model weathering, and as you'll see when you see it. And in some ways you could think I went over the top. I looked at it and thought to myself, no, I'm going to go for it and really go to town and see how it looks at the end. And I'm really pleased. You know, considering when you look at some of my other weathering projects, there is little bits I can update for next time. Add a few more some splashes, which is what I was going to do, but decided when I looked at it, I thought, no, I'm happy with the way it is. So I will be doing a bit more of that, but I'm working more on the underside, under the top hull. I didn't do underneath the complete under hull because it's not a competition piece, but if it was, then you would do it. And some of the smaller vehicles you could do it because it's straightforward to do, so that's okay. So what I'm going to do now is going to go down to the bench. No, before I go any further, because I don't want to do a little video at the end, is just to say that Greg Riley's doing a fantastic job of his. He's actually done a winter version of it, a different version of the same vehicle, because this was a KV2S hull, basically, you know, KVS hull. So basically the rear end was completely different, and the grills on the engine deck were different. Where I've got circular hatches, he's got louvered hull. I can actually show you something. I've actually got the same vehicle but in the Tamiya version, and you'll see what I mean. So this is the version he's doing. There's obviously this one here. I've got this one Tamiya, and there's no clear parts with it, but I can actually work around that. That's not a problem. And this one will have everything on it when I do it, all the drums and fuel drums and bits and pieces, or one missing, you know, anything. But I think really when you look at it, it's quite a nice looking vehicle, and having done this one, I'm looking forward to the next one for this at some point in the future. And I've got the JS2 tank, heavy tank, which was a medium tank by modern standards, but heavy at the time. And so that'd be another one I'll do later, and that'd be nice because that's green again, but that'd be added with the Berlin stripes around the turret and all that sort of thing, which is quite interesting. But in regards to Greg, he's doing that style of vehicle, and he's done all the winter bits and pieces on it, and it looks really great. And he's a master with the old weathering. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's really good. I mean, I'm still learning on that bit. I don't think you ever stop learning anyway, but I'm quite happy with what I've done. So here we go. Let's go to the bench and have a look. See, you'll see me in a second. Well, we're back at the bench now, and as you can see, she's sitting there with all her dirtiness, and the tracks now. What you may notice, what the track links on one side compared to the other side look longer, and I don't know why that is, because when I measured them out, how many track links there were, they came to the same. When I had them side by side, they was the same length. So it could be the fact that I actually done something that made it slightly altered on one side, but I'm still happy with it, because you never see both sides at the same time, and it was not that bad at all either, especially front and rear as well. So as you can see, she's got all the weather, and I used multiple pigments to mix together to give me a combination of colours. And I've done the road wheels inside, between the road wheels as well. I actually done inside and on the back side of it as well, and along the actual side of the vehicle that's underneath, but not the centre of it, because I'm not going to show it in a show anyway. But I would have to if I did that, because basically judges evidently lift it up and have a look underneath, so to see if you have weathered underneath. But I think you can see the mud effect quite nicely all the way along there. But what I did do though is a night shift modeler, a fantastic modeler he is. I used his method in regards to dusting afterwards, and that was with buff, thin down like near water effect. So when you're spraying it, you're not spraying, you're spraying more thinners on it, and it just evaporates and leaves all the dust effect on it. So you can see bits of dust effect. That was done with that as well. So there you go. I've got mud all in the crevices. You see crevices along there in the corners where it builds up in the corners, because what I've done this one is I made it look as if a lot of troops were on the back of the engine deck, and not so much on the roof, but there is mud effects up there as well. But it actually, the mud congregated into the crevices and corners while they was walking across the mud guards and just climbing up and down, and that's what it was. So that's what I've done. I've done the effect. I've done the headlight on the front, I will admit. Decided I like the look of the headlight, so I'll put it on there. I've dirtied it up, and what I'm saying is the headlight was replaced because that's the only thing that they wanted to replace because of the fact they need it for night driving. So there you go. So that's what that's my excuse anyway. But my next one won't have the lamp there at all. It will have the lamp there, sorry, but it'll be actually damaged with a little dent and dink in it. But let's go around this way. Let's see what I mean. There you go. I don't know whether that's sharper on the tracks or not. There, yeah, that's a little bit sharper now. Really pleased with the way. I mean, I did do, because they're metal tracks, through tracks. I actually really old sandy stick on it, and all the raised areas were actually clean. Because this vehicle has basically come through the mud fields, coming towards a city or a town. And it's started to enter onto the streets in the town, and has started to wear away the mud on the actual, and all the mud that was actually on the actual track's surface. But obviously it still retained the mud on the vehicle because it's not dried out completely where it starts crumbling and falling off, which it eventually will do. And that's my reasoning behind it. The shells, I've put rust into them a little bit because they got damaged, and they would have rusted quite quickly, I should think, with the night temperatures and moisture in the air. And so it's only light rust, and that's what I've done with the bullet holes as well. Bit of streaking rust going down where it's actually rained and it's watered down, so I've done that. Inside the barrel, I actually sprayed it black. But I couldn't, I tried to use a cone method to spray, so I've got all the paint in there. So what I did in the end, that didn't work. So what I thought myself is I will do is I got my airbrush with matte black, thinned very loosely, and then I put my airbrush, my little fine airbrush, into the hole at the end and kept spraying until I got black. And there's black in the back barrel, and there's black bits, but it's not all around the actual turret itself. So there you go. So that's what I did there. I think when you see the top, you'll see there the holes are there where the brackets used to be, and there's two holes on this side as well. And the cable goes across. Don't like the position of the cable, but that's the way it was on this particular vehicle, so I've kept it like that. And I could have just laid it down, but I know I've done that, and I think it looks reasonable. That's the main thing. On the front, got the photo etch document holder, as I should call it, and there you go. Document holder, and that looks alright. And I've got one shell shock in the middle, as you can see there, and it's a bit rustic as well because it's been where it's been there, but eventually it will crust up. Round again, the weld seams, I think that my method with the pyrograph works quite well, using the pyrograph to do it. That looks like a soldering iron, but it isn't. It's actually got a low temperature designed for actually doing hair on plastic figures, and figures with mentally bust figures as well. If you've got plastic, you can actually manipulate the hair on them, everything, and make dents and shapes into it. But I've used it for that, and I hadn't used it for quite a while. But I got it from Hystrix and Extra-X Dover years ago. Not sure whether you can still get them. I presume you can. But anyway, I got that, and it must have been about 22 years, might be more, because I used to go down to Dover to Hystrix, and they used to be in a house in the town area, and they've moved to a shop now years ago as well. So I used to go to in the cellar and see the chap who was actually started Hystrix itself. Such a long time ago now when I think about it. But yeah, really great place to go it was as well. And their actual shop is good and all. When I think you have to call up and make an advance appointment, I think it is nowadays. But anyway, but a really great place to have a look. And they normally have some figures in there all made up, and a few models as well. So as you can see, the weathering on this side, same as what it more or less is, the same, similar thing. Go that dust coat again. As I said, it looks dirty under there. It's congregated, but you can see some of the mud would have been on there. It's come off a little bit and just left the actual pigments, the actual mud left onto it with the colour. Coming around the side, I think you can see there we've got the actual mud that's come off the tracks and just flicked up there and stuck to the side, and it's gradually crumbling and will eventually be gone. And round the back, I think you can see, I'll put it back to the back, you can see the mud that's underneath there, and then the dust spatters around. I've done with the airbrush very lightly, and then the red light's there and it's very dull, and that's where it's going to be. Look, because it's weathered. It's red at the top and a little bit of white segment at the bottom, and I painted it up by hand, put red behind it and red dollop in the front of it, on the front of the light, let it dry, and then I went in with silver at the back, and then I painted the green by hand with a paintbrush all the way around, and then once that was dry, then I used white glue to stick it in there, and that's where it is now, and it's stay. And I think it looks quite nice there. It's not in your face, it's not bright and standing out, but there you go, that's what it is. The exhaust, I think you can see them quite nicely there. They're black inside, a bit black, sooty inside, and the reason for that is because I sprayed as well. I painted that by hand and sprayed the actual exhaust, which you'll see better from the top. But the actual exhaust themselves, Night Shift I think it said, they're actually cast, so they're very thick and very strong. So they take a long time to rust, really rust badly. So what I've done is done a light rust on them, but I've also done a little specks of green where it's actually peeling the paint that's on the actual exhaust. When they sprayed it, they just sprayed the exhaust as well. There you go. So back this way. And there you go, all the way around. So there you go. So that's that. So I'm going to put it back where it was, to that side. Well, this side, it's on the different side now. You can see what I mean with the tracks. It's still got that shape there. There's just must be one link or something I did with the adjuster that I didn't quite get right. But that doesn't matter. It's working out okay anyway. Right, back in a second. I'm just going to give you the top and over the top method. Well, here we are back again. This is the top view. I think you can see the actual rust in the actual, well, it's not rust, but actual shading that got in the actual world seams, which is quite nice. And you see where the mud is actually gathered in the actual crevices around the side. And so I'm quite chuffed out. I mean, I could have put a bit more down between the gap here, but obviously it didn't get there. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not there. So the roof, as you can see, has got stains on it where the actual crew clambered up, but any mud would have got off. That drops most of it off, and it's been brushed off or cleared up. But it's actually just left stains of where the crew have handled about inside, because the actual soldiers would have been on the rear end and not so much on the roof anyway. So there you go. So that's good. Really pleased with the wood colour, quite nice. That's a life colour as well. So. And now I think you can see what I mean by the actual exhaust. It comes across there and it fades a little bit as it gets to the end. I may have to put a bit of shiny oil fuel substance there, because evidently these actually a lot of fuel come out through the exhaust and basically left shiny spots there, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to do that later on if it's necessary. But at the moment I'm quite happy with what I've got there now. Coming round, all the way round, and as you can see, it's on this side. I've done the same again with a bit where they've wet their foot and the actual mud's gone into the corners. Rust across there, you can see on where the engine plate joins the side armour plate. That's quite happy. I'm quite happy with that. And the mud over this side again is the same principle. A track that's coming up, it's flicked up onto that bit of the actual bare engine, rear engine deck, and actually stuck to it. And eventually that will all crumble off. And I no doubt if I get a wooden pick so I could take some of it off, but I'm not going to, because I don't want to do that with it when I've got this far. So there you go. So really that's what I've done. I'm quite happy with it. Well, more than quite happy. I'm really pleased. So there you go. So all I'm going to say now is this is the end of this build now. Now I'm going to go back onto the Trumpeter 1/200 scale HMS Nelson. I will do a video on it when I've put all those little bits on the deck, but then I can actually show you that I've actually repainted the under the hull as well, which I have done. So that'll be in the next video. So I'm going back on that. The kit and carry hasn't been forgotten. I've actually got a couple of bits I've been working on. The sprockets at the front, I've been doing those as well, and I'm trying to refill all the recesses where the moulding has left them like craters. And everyone says, a lot of people have said that there's enough no sink marks, but that's the inside of it is all full of full of all recesses which need doing, as you'll see when I do the update on that. But yep, so we're back on the Nelson next, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Happy modelling.